Hello and welcome to Conquering Mount Scrapmore with Brenda. I'm Brenda and today is our very first episode of Free Pattern Friday. Yes, FPF, not FPP, which is a totally different quilting thing, but FPF, Free Pattern Friday. And today we're going to start out with my old favorite that I used to make, and my grandmother, a variation of what my grandmother used to make on what to do with your scrap fabrics. If you remember, if you've been following me for a while, you would see what I did with my strings and crumbs series. Well, I was showing you these string blocks that I make. Well, today we decided to take them out, dust off, get them all dusted off and take them out for a stroll. So come on in, we'll get to the sewing. So here's the block we're going to make. Now, you can see these are string blocks that I've poverty pieced. There's some poverty piecing going on, and this one here has gotten sewn together just to make it the right length. When we did our string and crumb series, I showed you bags and bags of these in all different colors where I had poverty pieced some of the shorter bits together to make a string that was 6.5 by 6.5 square, right? So now we're going to play with these blocks that we've got just to show you one of my old-time favorite blocks that my grandmother used to make, because she said, you make these string blocks and then they sit in a pile and you don't do anything with them. So now you've got to go make something. So basically now you're going to take 2 of these string blocks that are 6.5 by 6.5, fold it this way, right? And then cut it in half. So now this piece here will measure 6.5 by 3.25, right? Okay, now, once you do 2 of those blocks like that, these string blocks like that, you make one block that's 6.5 square for the middle in a contrasting shade or contrasting color, and then you do 4 of these 3.25 inch squares. Now this is going to all sew together beautifully. But when you're putting them into a quilt, there's a lot of seams on these sides, these edges here. My grandmother used to put sashing in between them, even if it was only like 1.5 inches of like sashing. It broke up the pattern, right? But it also gave a place for all these seams to lie flat. They would lie flat, and the quilt top would absolutely be perfect. Then you can put little cornerstones at the edge, right, just to break up all the white at the corners, right? Because you've got, let's say, a colored sashing and then a different color square here. Well, like you're going to have it's going to make a little cute secondary pattern block here in the corner, right? So let's get to the sewing here, because this comes together so quick. Now I'm going to, typically what I do is I start at the top, right? I know you can't see that because we have to get you in close enough. So I start here, and I start right at the upper left-hand corner, and I work like this. And I run those through first. Where's my foot pedal? I have no idea where my foot pedal is. It ran away. Okay, so I sew these together first. And then I sew this together next. But basically I'm creating a webbed block. Now webbing is really important because you can do a lot of quilt blocks very quickly by webbing. And they all stay in the right order. So if I was going to make, let's say, a large quilt from this, I would have all my pieces lined up and ready to go. And take this and flip it over. Just like the way you would read a book, right? That's the way Bonnie Hunter describes webbing a block. You read it, you flip the page and read the book. Okay, so now I'm going to get my plug. See, I would just make another block right now at this point if I was doing this, but I don't want to bore you with watching, having to watch, me make 17 blocks or, 20 blocks or whatever. So now I put this all back on my board, right? And I lay it all out again to make sure I haven't messed anything up, right? And I haven't. It's still all in good placement. And now I take this seam and I just keep going on down the way. Here, hang on. So I'm just going to It's almost, it's all partially sewn. And when you're doing several blocks like this, this is actually a more efficient way of sewing them because they're already in order. Now you take your string bit and you put it down exactly where you need to. There we go. Now if this, you know, having these blocks lie really flat is also going to be a bit of a challenge when you get to this part here. Okay, so this goes here. But what you want to do is this piece in the middle is solid. So everything, all these are going to naturally want to go towards the middle. And that's how you press this block. Everything goes to the middle. There we go. Now, you can see, and I'll get this block all laid out again. You can see it's all webbed together, right? So now you only have to make 2 more seams, right? Because this is going to be here in the middle. So what we're going to do is now we're going to tilt it at 90 degrees, and we're just going to take this and fold it over this way and just run it through. And this little piece gets dragged along and it gets sewn on next. So now we're going to line this all up. Make sure our corners match beautifully. Yes, they do. And the bottom one goes into the blue, right? The bottom one goes into the solid piece. There, we've made our point. And we race down. And we hold all this together. And now we just finish this off, just like so. Now we turn it a 180 and we sew on our last seam because it's all nested there, really, really nice and neat. Okay, now the bottom one is going to go, the seam is the bottom one, the seam's going to go this way, or no, this way, and this top seam is going to go that way. Oh, excuse me, I'm so sorry. That allergy season is, it's summertime in Canada. It's allergy season for me. There we go. Now we just go all the way to the end. There, line it up, make sure it's all lined up good. And make sure all your seams, none of these seams flip. And if they do, it's an easy fix, right? I mean, you just clip up to, but not including the sewing. I hope I should be able to show you one here in a minute. These make colorful little quilt blocks, and you can make them every color of the rainbow. I picked a really graphic contrast. Now, nope, none of these flipped. So let's say one of these seams had flipped. You would just take your scissor and cut it out just like that and just trim it right close to the stitching line as possible without cutting the stitching. And that way it would then lie flat again, right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to make sure, we're just going to finger press this like this. Just, you know, give it a quick finger press so that all the seams go to the middle. I know that sounds weird, but it's the place they naturally want to go in a string block because there's so many. And when you put sashing around these blocks, and sashing makes these blocks really easy to put together too, by the way. When you put sashing on these blocks, this thing lies absolutely flat because the sashing turns in this way because all of these seams are forcing it to go that way, right? So it's a really flat, it works out really flat. I was really quite surprised because I couldn't figure out how you're going to put all those seams there and have them all go one direction. So anyways, let's get to this ta-da moment now that I just finished finger pressing it. So isn't this a fun little block? Isn't this just worked up really quick? And all you need is some very basic pieces. You need some string blocks that are squared up to 6.5 or whatever size you want to square them up to. If you square them up at 7, let's say 7 inches square, and you cut them in half the long way, then this would be 3.5 by 6.5, and this would still be 6.5 square, but this would be 3.5 square. So it depends on what size you've cut your blocks to, depending on, you know, then you work different quilt block sizes. Right now this sits at 11 3/4 unfinished, right? But by the time you add a sashing on there and more blocks and everything else, yeah, you've got a very good sized quilt block to play with and have some really crazy colors going on. So I was going to make a few more of these. I've got some ideas on what I want to do with all of these string blocks, but I thought I would share this one with you because this one is just so fun and so simple, and it can be made so bright and so happy. We do hope you try this block. I hope you have an absolutely fabulous weekend and week ahead. Okay, you guys take care. Bye! My husband and I would like to thank you for watching today. We're so happy about the way our channel has grown, and we just want to wish you so well in your journey along with us. Please like, share, and subscribe, and tell your friends. Now, the next thing is this quilt. We are wondering if you guys would like this quilt as a free sew along on this channel this fall, this coming fall, winter. We were kind of thinking that this one would be really fun to do. We could do it in a larger size or a smaller size, it's up to you, but this one was a lot of fun to make. And it's all, it lends itself to being hand stitched, but you can also do this on a sewing machine as well. So let us know in the comments below. Remember, share, like, subscribe, tell your friends. Okay, have a great week ahead. Bye!